How many Catholics visit a Lutheran or Presbyterian church to get their point of view? To go feel which one is close. Some do, I don't doubt that. There are many religious people that go to different churches and stop at the one nearest to their values. That's what all people do. And if they all pick primitive things, your culture needs an overhaul. If we still go to war, you know, I think in the motion picture Things to Come, somebody said to Dr. Cabell, or the guy in charge, that they're at war. He said, still at it, eh? See, there were some comments which normal people did not react to in the film at all. They couldn't react to it. They have no background to react to it. They found a bunch of scientists running things, and it just didn't look right. It looked like the answer was, H.G. Wells' friend said it sounds like fascism. Now this system would sound like fascism because Fresco lays out the schools, the buildings, the cities, only because not enough people are into that yet. But there will be more people laying it out as they get into it. Edison taught people how to use the electric light, how to build generators, or people that made generators for Edison taught people to make generators. But the average person did not get up and say, I don't want any generators, is not God-given. There were some people that said that never used generators. They're out of business. So presenting ideas is not the answer. Preparing people's attitude to be able to hear new ideas, so when they listen to you, they say, I don't know enough about the subject to make a decision. I think I'm going back and read up on it and come back next week. Very few people do that. Sure, you'll find evidence among some academicians to support some of the concepts, but not enough. I hate to use academicians because they climb up on your back of innovators. But I do understand reliance on academicians to help support the project, but that isn't real. I think people had to learn from the Wright brothers how to build airplanes. If they built the first flying machine, the Army said, the Army was the first to order 5 airplanes from the Wright brothers for surveillance. They said that the war tank is better for shooting. Airplanes can only carry, they used to carry a rifle. Before that they threw bottles and stones at one another in the air. Did you know that? Yeah. In the old crates. And because the airplane couldn't carry a cannon, it can only carry a rifle. The guy would stand up a cover and try to shoot the other plane down. And then they had a gun way above the wing so it would clear the propeller. Then somebody invented a synchronous machine gun that shoots between the rotation of the blades. Jeez. Did you know what I'm talking about? You don't? There's a bump on the camshaft. You know what that means? The camshaft turns the propeller, and that bump operates the machine gun. Brrr, between where the blade is. Otherwise they shot off the propeller. Do you understand that? So it's the invention of the machine gun at the pilot's eye view that enabled him to shoot down more planes. When the guns are on top, it's only an approximation. Do you understand? They were on the top wing above the height of the propeller, or out on the wings, which didn't give you a good view. So invention compensates for human insufficiency. But we have a lot of inventors making things that are useless too. A house should be a public library, a school, intercommunication systems, not just a home. With the laptop, the house is becoming more than just a place to sleep and eat. In the future, it'll be a place with your built-in gym and everything else, if you can afford it. Or a society can make a house. The better integrated people are and interconnected, the richer society. People say, would everybody be uniform? If they were technically uniform, be useful. Non-technically, it would not be useful. There's nothing the matter with uniformity. All architects and all engineers have to pass a standard exam, which is okay for competence, you know. But if you know of technicians that advocate aspects of the Venus Project, great. Technicians eventually will do that. But remember, they bring with them some of the primordial slime, because they don't come from an environment that's objective or scientific yet. The scientific world is in the early phases of the scientific method. Academia is not the Venus Project, nor is it science as it's used today. They wouldn't work on bombers if they were part of the Venus Project. They wouldn't work on weapons. They wouldn't be patriotic if there was such a thing as a science. I'm sure there are. I'm sure they're having a tough time too. I'm sure that some scientists must come to some conclusions similar, but not all joined together. It's very rare for someone to have this identical environment I had. It's very rare. No, they don't come to the same conclusion.
No.
They believe, most scientists believe in free will. I asked them. Don't forget, I met a lot of scientists. Do you believe in free will? Of course. I scored high in my school. That means that something else. It means they have a different environment, but they don't look at it objectively. They feel they're achievers. If they get a Nobel Prize, they feel good about it, rather than share it with other labs. You know, they don't have the scientific attitude yet. It isn't here yet. And if somebody advocates it, then you build a following. And the following does not give an interpretation of Darwin's theory of evolution. There are people that do that too. Say there's no evidence. There's lots of evidence. They don't know what evidence means. That the evidence is that the trees of 1 million years ago were different than the trees today. They evolved, they changed. Not necessarily for the better. There were poisonous snakes, I'm sure, at the time of dinosaurs. I'm sure they were different than the snakes of today. But all animals seem to undergo change according to digging into the ground. I don't think people will study too much of the past, except that nations took over, other nations took their wares, but no speeches by Patrick Henry or anybody else, because they couldn't say anything relevant. I don't listen to most political speeches, because they don't say anything. They really say we can improve automotive production by sharing ideas with different companies. They don't say that. I don't find enough evidence to identify with peer groups. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm sure there are people out there in the scientific world that would jump onto this. But some scientists may say, have you heard about the Venus Project? Oh, the guy is self-made. He never heard of him making any contributions. You know, they might do that. I don't know what they do. But I can't concern myself with what they do. So here am I proposing something. I wish that a lot of doctors at the same time said, wash your hands. It was only one guy. And they said, what's your basis for that? They didn't all have microscopes in the old days. So he showed them germs on the skin. That was when the real change came, with the microscope. But there were people that even said, well, how do you know they caused disease? They were always present when a person had eruptions on the skin, that type of bacteria. When they had visual problems and they found bacteria that were responsible, they always found similar bacteria on the eyes, on the hands, on the genitals. Sexually transmitted bacteria were the same. You understand what I mean? But it wasn't until the microscope that uniform agreement can be established. It could not be established by debate. No matter how, unless the doctor was very important, most doctors listen to the established leader of the system. We have no established leaders. All I'd like to do is get the ball rolling, take it from there. But before I get the ball rolling, I want to get the ideas out on education, on learning theory, on how the brain is influenced by environment. If I can get that out, it's a good safety measure to control values more so. I'd like to get I don't know out there too, more so. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to make a decision.